Good evening and welcome to the October 22nd regular meeting of the Board of Education. Can I have a motion to retire to executive session to discuss the following? Advice of counsel regarding a litigation matter, to hold our audit committee meeting, to discuss confidential building level safety plans, to discuss various personnel appointments, and the IEPs of students. A second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We will see you at 7:30 p.m. Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our October 22nd regular Board of Education meeting. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. We have emergency exits on all sides of the room. Thanks for joining us tonight. We have a very heavy agenda, some really nice recognition of students and retirees tonight, so we're going to jump right in. I'm going to turn it over to our superintendent, Mr. Chang, to recognize our Merit Scholarship students.
Thank you, Madam President. We will get right into our recognitions tonight. We will be honoring and recognizing our National Merit Scholarship commended students, in which I invite our principal, John Murphy, to introduce the students.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Board members, parents, thank you for having us, and I hope this is the first in a series this year of celebratory happenings at board meetings where we get to celebrate the students, two groups of students in particular tonight for excellence, both academic and service. The first group are our National Merit Scholars. So every year, and this year in particular, approximately 1.6 million high school students in 13,000 high schools take the PSAT in October of their junior year. This PSAT is a preliminary requirement for the National Merit Scholarship Program that started in 1955. Of those 1.6 million, approximately 2% are recognized as commended scholars, as the highest of the high scorers. There's a national-wide cutoff that denotes commended scholars, but semifinalists are chosen from that pool, and the commended scholars are noted by a state index. So this is rarefied air that these students are breathing. We know that the best is yet to come for them, but we'd like to recognize them publicly as Southside High School's representatives of the National Merit commended scholars. Lads, come on in. Join me in congratulating. Yeah. Ava Honorado. Sophia Romanello. Hugh Rashert. And Ava Wan. And now I'm supposed to shake your hand, but I can't. So, congratulations, guys. Unscripted, I guess. Stage right, hang out and watch your friends. I think this is going rather well, considering it's first for everything. Everything's first time. The next group of students are those who are our elected officials. These our student government elections traditionally occur in the spring of the prior year, but for obvious reasons, this occurred this year in October. And here are our winners of our senior elected officials. There's going to be two groups. One is our Student Government Association officers. These are our seniors who represent the entire student body, as well as our class presidents. So, why don't you all come in together, make this a group thing. So I'll first list our student government officers, and as your name's called, lads, if you could just come to the front and be recognized. Our SGA president is Skylar DeLuca. Our first vice president, Caitlin Espiritu. Our second vice president, Madeline Wolfram. Secretary, Mr. Brady Bender. And Treasurer, Ashlyn Bourget. Okay, stage right, so we can make way for the next wave. Social distancing, you know. Our next group are our elected class presidents. And guys, as you're walking out, at the risk of overstating the obvious, now more than ever, we need our elected student officials to come together and work collaboratively with us. So while their roles are usually resigned for the traditional, such as Spirit Week, Homecoming Week, and things like that, theirs will be a more active role in collaborating with us, the board, the teachers, and the staff, as we rebuild the airplane while it's in the air. So I'd like to now introduce our class presidents, not in order of importance. Our senior class president, Mr. Emilio Grillo. Junior class president, Sophia Adonilo. Sophomore class president, Ali Polaro. And freshman class president, Panayoti Georgilis. Photo opportunities have already been taken care of in the adjacent room. Smile, you're on camera. And congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Principal Murphy. I'd like to take the opportunity, Madam, if I may take the podium, and recognize a special night and evening for our retirees. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take this moment to recognize some of our retirees aren't here with us, so I'd like to start off by reading their names and recognizing them for the years of service that they put in and the positions that they've held. We have a retiring teacher, Suzanne Reese, Southside Middle School. We have, we'll applaud at the end. I'm sorry, I don't need to keep it a little awkward. We'll have time for that. Our teaching assistants, Eileen Cotty at Wilson School, Doris Kelly at Southside Middle School, Judith Gallagher, teacher aide at Southside High School, a confidential secretary, Barbara Strong, Office Staff Association, Barbara Ferreira at Southside Middle School, and Elizabeth McNulty, also at Southside Middle School, and teaching aides, Karen Stewart, Antoinette Scalecchi, Selecchia, sorry. Carol Trebus from Wilson School as well. So a big round of applause first off for the retirees of this year. So earlier today, I said tonight would be a special event, and that this event tonight would be important. Because it is. But I feel like important doesn't really cover tonight. Tonight is more significant. And I suspect for most of us in this room, because of the retirees whom we honor together have done something extraordinary. Something that requires selflessness and courage to follow a passion, to lead with compassion, and to empower others from the root of wisdom and knowledge, and to do it well. Our retirees have dedicated their lives to education, to the betterment of kids. And the evidence is pretty clear that our retirees don't just have the grit to be educators, they also had the capacity to match. Not that it is always easy, and we know some days we trudge through, and I think we've all had those days. But other days, most days, we get to be a part of something magical, introducing a child to a book that they'll love for the rest of their lives, watching the little face light up when you tell them, yes, you too can do and be whatever you set your mind to. Our honorees are a part of planning and organizing the supports and impact so many of our young ones' lives. And as instructors and instructional supporters, the lives you have impacted over the years are countless. Your impact is priceless. When you see staff and students turn a corner, when you are working hard to solve problems, and you see the confidence of those around you bloom, it can be one of the greatest and most rewarding feelings in the world. And as educators, that gratifying feeling is our sacred power source. And let's be clear, when I'm speaking about educators, I'm talking about everyone that is connected within the network of our schools. From our teaching assistants, teachers, teaching aides, secretarial staff, custodial staff, all those who play an intricate role in getting us up and running, all for the betterment of kids. I can think of no better one line that describes what we do as educators. For what the educator does, and for what our retirees have done and have spent their lives doing, they have created value in the lives of our young ones and to everyone that they've connected with. And because of that, we owe our retirees an abundance of gratitude. The educators who have blazed the trail before us, because you were all products of education. So to our retirees, I consider the inspiration you provide all of us to be a gift. And for me, that gift alone makes tonight incredibly significant. You've shown us what it is. You've shown us that it is not only possible to build a career through passion, but that through that profession of education, that you will deeply be fulfilled and be essential in all of our lives. It is about the years invested and that you've seen in that investment the betterment of people, selflessly and with great courage. The mark you left on our schools and our community is remarkable. And thank you for your service, and thank you for the honor of acknowledging you tonight. Please join me in a round of applause again for our retirees. With that, I'd like to bring up Madam President Hackett to honor those in attendance with us that will be going off to their great rest and hopefully enjoying something on the other end of this pandemic.
Congratulations, and thank you so much for your service. We will miss you, and we wish you well. Long, many happy years of retirement. I believe that Eileen Cotty is with us tonight. Come on down, Eileen.
Thank you.
Dolores Kelly. We love her. Barbara Strong. and Antoinette Selekia.
Thank you.
I just want to mention, too, that we had been given a list of all of our retirees, and they ranged from 15 years with us to 29 years. So that's such an accomplishment, so many years combined of all the women. They're all women this year that have retired. So we'd like to thank all of you who could be with us and who couldn't be with us for your many, many years of service to the students of Rockville Center. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Good evening again. I also had the honor of recognizing our Board of Education. And if you will indulge me a little bit, I have a little bit of experience with boards of education. And I wanted to take the moment out to really highlight and also give thanks for the members that you have here on the board. It takes a special person to want to be on the Board of Education. And a long time ago, when I first heard that phrase, I couldn't tell if it was a joke, if it was being serious. But I've come to understand that to serve on the Board of Education is a true version of servanthood. It is about leading when it is very difficult. It is about making decisions when they're not easy. And it is about being able to support when the hard times hit. And I could tell you from having experienced many different board members that Rockville Center is extremely lucky to have the board members that you have here today. As a collective, they're thoughtful. As a collective, they're understanding. And as a collective, they're fiercely committed to the betterment of the RVC students. It's been a pleasure getting to know the board over the last few months. I knew that when I was coming to Rockville Center, I was coming because I believed in my version of what education progress looks like, what forward thinking felt like, and believing that with the right support and with the right people that we could achieve and continue to achieve in a great district such as Rockville Center. And I could tell you, after experiencing for a few months, 3 months to be exact, it has been a rewarding journey when things have not been easy. It has been fruitful when we thought there would be no fruit to bear. And it has been amazing to discourse back and forth about what do we do next and how do we continue to think beyond what just is today. And because of that, I want the public to be able to understand that the people that you've elected, the people that sit on this board, that stay here and discuss and look at and further want to do better. It's not just because they have kids that are tied to the schools, but it's because they are deeply rooted in the fact that they want to do better for all students. And that's what makes this board incredibly amazing. And as we honor boards across, I want to make sure that the one that I know that I've experienced with the passion and zeal for the Rockville Center kids are recognized tonight. And I wanted to say thank you and appreciation for all that you do and for the countless numbers of hours that you put in to make us and all of us better and be one community. So thank you. With that, I believe we have a short presentation that has been put together by our music department. So I will introduce Dr. Zuar, who will introduce the choral arrangement.
Thank you, Mr. Chang, and thank you, Board of Education, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As I do each year, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Freiling and the Chamber Singers to perform for the Board of Ed to recognize their enormous contribution to our community. Of course, this year is unlike any other year that I've ever done this. For one thing, the chamber singers and Dr. Freiling are not here with us in person, but they've prepared a virtual performance on video. In fact, all of our music department and theater department performances will be presented in this manner this year. And believe me, it's a lot more difficult to put that together than for them to be here in person and perform live. Believe me. It's hard. We're learning. We're struggling. Change is hard. And what changes we've all had to contend with for these 8 months. But one thing is unchanged about Rockville Centre schools, and I credit you, the Board of Education and District Administration, with maintaining and perpetuating this unchanging aspect of our culture, and that is what Mr. Chang just mentioned, the recognition that the individual human being, whether it's a student, a teacher, anybody, is primary. I could tell stories about everybody on this dais, not only the board members, the district administrators. I don't want to embarrass you, but I could tell stories and anecdotes about how each of you reached out to me in some personal one-to-one way to offer support and concern. Sometimes it was personal, it was for me personally, but more importantly and most often it was for our school children, their concerts, their shows, their growth as human beings. The personal touch, one-on-one, it's contagious. Poor choice of words. In this environment. But you know what? I'm going to use it anyway. It's contagious. I should be infected with such a virus as care for the individual. In fact, I submit to you, we're all super spreaders of that virus. It extends to our principals, the network of concern and care to our principals, our teachers, staff members, most importantly, the young people who are the reason we're here, the students. This, I believe, is the secret to our success as a school district. And it emanates from here, from you, Board of Ed, so thank you very much. Before we hear from Dr. Freiling and the chamber singers, let me conclude with a story I heard recently that more succinctly illustrates my point. Some years ago, Mother Teresa of Calcutta was being interviewed by a journalist who asked her, "When we see all that's happening in the world, what do you want to change?" "But you and me, dear sir," the saint responded. "I only want to change you and me."
Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. And change will come to you.
The change I want to see in the world is an end to racism and equality for everyone.
Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in the world. And change will be the change you want to see in the world. And change will come to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zuar. We appreciate that. And Dr. Freiling and the Chamber Singers, thank you so much. That's so beautiful, and we really appreciate that. I also would like to just take a moment to say congratulations to all of our students. Really just amazing students, and in their efforts and in their academics and in their service as well to their schools by running for office. We know what it feels like, and we really do respect that they take that on at a very young age. I think that's amazing to be elected among your peers, so congratulations to all of them as well. Okay, so tonight, because of our guidelines of what we're allowed to do in terms of in-person meetings, we actually have community members and students joining us in 2 locations in the building tonight. We have people in the auditorium with us here, and we also have people in our commons room. So as some people leave this room, we're able to move others in. So just ask for your patience tonight. As we can, we will get everybody up to the microphone at that appropriate times during the meeting tonight. So just give you a little bit of an idea of how tonight's meeting will work. This is a public hearing for the district-wide safety plan. So we'll be opening the microphone at various times throughout the meeting. Following the superintendent's report this evening, we're going to invite any students who are still in attendance to join us at the microphone so that you do not have to stay for the duration of the entire meeting and wait for the opportunity for visitors. But we will ask any parents and community members, adults, to respectfully wait for the opportunity for visitors toward the end of the program. After we do present the district-wide safety plan, we will also open the microphone for any questions or comments that are specific to that. Later on in the agenda, the opportunity for visitors is for general comments and questions, and there are rules associated with any time that anybody comes up to the microphone, so I'd just like to go through those rules with everybody. When you come up to the microphone, please state your name and address before making your comment or asking your question. You will be restricted to 1 visit to the microphone and a 3-minute limit. Our district clerk will be keeping time for us and will be alerting us when your 3 minutes are coming to a close. At that time, we ask that you conclude your question or your comments. You are not permitted to address any individual member of the board, nor may you mention the name of any student, staff member, or community member. If these rules are violated, we will have to ask you to step down from the microphone. To keep the meeting running effectively, the opportunity for visitors section will last for 25 minutes. Thank you very much. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Chang for his superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. I will start tonight by acknowledging that we've made it to week 7. We worked extremely hard to get to this point, and I'm incredibly proud of the work that the administration, principals, teachers, students, and families have kind of put in to get us to this place. Right off the bat, I know that we have some interest in understanding or the want to bring everybody back at the middle school and high school, so I want to be able to give some comments and thoughts on that to start. So the question has been asked in terms of, do we have an additional plan of looking to bring kids back at the middle school and high school? I think as of right now, the plan is to continue to monitor the things that are going on throughout all of Nassau County and the science and the data that's coming in. Our hope is that as things get better, because of the models that we've chosen, because that we have this hybrid model where kids are able to follow along remotely, that when and if that does get better, that we're able to bring everybody back seamlessly, possibly more in a phased approach, because I would give that announcement a little bit earlier if that were to happen. Additionally, it is purely our desire and want, certainly with everybody else's, to bring all our kids back. It's our desire to want to bring some normalcy back to our teachers who are working incredibly hard. 3 monitors up, monitoring kids who are on an application, monitoring kids who are remote, and as well as in the classroom. Mind you, this has never been done before. And I think we are working incredibly hard to continue to grow in this area. And I commend the teachers for the effort that they put in. And as we look at all the things that we've done, yes, we want our kids back. And I think our teachers would also agree that they would want to get back to that normalcy. But I think timing is critical in terms of how we plan and what we decide to do. I also think it's incredibly important that we hit the right time, because that is going to be vital to how we finish out the end of the year. And I would love to get to the end of the year where we have everybody back. I don't want to jeopardize that in any way by making a decision based on what it is, which is all of our desire, is to bring everybody back in haste. But we are looking, and that does not mean that we're not looking at opportunities where we may be able to bring them back. But that's a slow conversation, and that's a conversation that's going to involve multiple people who are involved in the day-to-day operations of our schools. The part that's great about what we've done is that we've been able to stay in school for 7 days. And dare I say it, we have not yet to close a classroom, a school, or the district. I counted just today, there were over 50 schools, over 40 districts that have had to close. We're getting more information about red zones, orange zones, yellow zones, what they mean. I don't want us to get to that place where we are one of those zones. And I am fearful that maybe, in terms of if we had to close, that we were better situated in a controlled environment to be able to get back open as quickly as possible. Our goal is definitely to bring a community back full. But how we get there is going to take time. And what that means is us constantly looking at what's going on around us, what's going on with our own schools, and following the guidelines. And the guidelines change, which makes it very difficult for all of us to follow. And as they change, the situation and circumstances change. We've gone to week 7, and it's only week 7 of the year. I don't want to ever put us in a situation where it's not safe, or it does not help us sustain getting us to the end of the year in a fashion where we can be together in a very healthy manner. So when people ask, do we have a plan? Certainly, we are looking at the data. Certainly, if we were to bring people back, it would be at the right time, and it would be supported by scientific evidence, and it would be supported by the numbers. It would also be supported by what we know that we can achieve within the own bounds of our walls. Yes, I do know that there are districts that are going back. It is very few. I've spoken to the districts. They have space to keep 6 feet apart. We don't. But we will continue to look at avenues where we may be able to make that happen. And it may not be next week. It may not be a month from now. But when there is an opportunity to do so, we will do so in a phased-in manner, where we give notice, where we go back to a normal schedule, what that normal schedule might look like. There will be contact and outreach by the principals, by the building level, both at the middle and high school, and we will phase it in. We do not shut the door on anything. I think we can't do that. I think in these unprecedented times, we need to be open to thinking about how we can solve these unique problems that we've never faced before. And we'll continue to work on those. And I know how important it is to the parents. I certainly know how important it is to the students. And I know we have some seniors here, and seniors particularly, this is their last year. I want our seniors to be able to experience a robust high school experience before they go on. We want to be able to provide that. But that may take some time. Right now, around us, the numbers have gone up. I've heard today that Boston shut down its schools. If we are going to close, I want it to be under a controlled environment where we can then open back up. And even then, it may not be up to me, as we've seen at the end of last year. But I want to try to keep us open and safe as long as possible. And I understand the frustration. I feel those same frustrations. I go through it day in, day out, and I go through it for our teachers, I go through it for our administrators, I go through it for our parents, and I hear you. I understand. I'm with you. The best thing that we want is to be able to bring our kids back. We want that normal. We want to get back to normal. So I will continue, as I've committed, to updating the community every week via live stream if there's information. I know that there was information. I was on a call with all of Nassau County superintendents, with Larry Eisen from Nassau County of Health. And they talked about how important and critical it was that some of the schools that have found success have adhered to the 6 feet of distance, that's been a key component. And that, as we continue to take measured approaches to this and look at the right time, our timing has led to our success. And I want to be able to continue providing that for our students and for our staff. I wish I could say, let's bring everybody back tomorrow. I really, truly do. But I think there are a lot of parameters and hurdles that we need to get over. And we also need to understand that the science hasn't changed. COVID and the pandemic hasn't changed. So we're trying to be as careful. We want to be safe. We'll continue to keep you updated. And nothing is off the table. Nothing is off the table in terms of what we can do in the future. I want to be able to give the seniors an opportunity to go through, and not just the seniors, but everybody else. The high school experience is important. The social aspect of schooling is incredibly important. We understand that. And part of that is why we brought back our clubs. Even though they'll be virtual, it's another aspect of us connecting with our students. So that is what we are doing. We're continuing to look at other avenues. I am asking questions of other districts of what it is that they're doing, what are the challenges that they're facing. But we are Rockville Center, where there are nuances to everything in every district. And I know there's some teachers that know and understand that, and some board members who understand that as well. So stay tuned. We'll continue to keep you apprised. We do have the holiday season coming up. We do have Halloween coming up. We do have the long December break coming up. I would ask again that whatever practices that we put into place that got us here in our schools, the social distancing, the masks, the washing of hands, the respiratory hygiene, that we continue to do that beyond the school walls. Our success is contingent upon what happens outside the hours that our students are in school. That goes for our teachers, that goes for our students, for our administration, and to the families. We're all in this together, as I said, and we would like to continue to be in this position. So I ask everyone to be diligent in following those guidelines that have been put out there, whether it's on Halloween, whether it's during Thanksgiving, whether it's during the long winter break. And we will continue to keep you apprised every step of the way. I have no problem talking about what it is that we're looking to do, and we'll continue to do so. So on that note, as part of our plan, and as we're phasing things in, as you can see, we've done the phase-in with the clubs, we've done the phase-in with the barriers and all these other things. We are also looking to start strength and conditioning for all our students at limited capacity on the outside to give some activity to our student body at the middle school and high school. I have not firmed up all the details. I know that our athletic director and the athletic department is working on this. This is strength and conditioning where people can be outside, work on core activities, be out in the open, and for about an hour every day after school. Look out for that information to come sometime next week, and we look to be able to start that sometime next week as well. That information will be forthcoming to you from the athletic department. We know how important these things are, and we want to make sure that we provide these opportunities to our students. With that being said, that concludes my update and report, Madam President.
In terms of the, plans for going back full-time, just to throw out a suggestion, I mean, we had utilized our reopening committees. I'm wondering if we could have a resurrected reopening committee that's focused on bringing students full back and having those stakeholders at the table that maybe could come up with a phased-in sort of approach or plan that could be enacted. Because people have pointed out, we have plans for shutting, we want to have plans for opening as well. So if we could maybe have some of that information being gathered by people that would be involved in the decision-making that can then be shared, I think the community might feel, it's always a problem for the community if they don't hear something, they might assume it's not being talked about. And we always try to clear that up at these meetings and say, just because you haven't heard it doesn't mean we aren't talking about it, but we want to be fair to people. Make sure that they understand that the types of things that are going into it similarly to how we brought people back in September. So I would just maybe request that we could bring some of those committee members back to the table to focus on the 6 to 12 reopening, and then that can be shared from there. And again, the timing is important, so it might not be because we have the committee that it means we're opening sooner, but just puts a plan into place that the community can understand how and why that decision would be made, what thresholds and benchmarks that we need to see happening in Nassau County and the district for us to maybe be able to see that happen. I think it would help people to understand a little bit better.
Certainly, Madam President, that's not, something that, that I'm opposed to. Again, I just want to remind everyone that we are at week 7. So what we were thinking about doing is we did put re-entry marks for kids who have stayed remote. So we looked at those markers in terms of some of the conversations that we would start picking up again. As that first marker comes up this November, it would be a good time to kind of start having a conversation in terms of not only just the reopening. I think there's bigger conversations to be had about how we prepare for. I want to be prepared for the worst and hope for the best. So to be able to do that and talk that out with the committee and take recommendations would be a good thing. So certainly we could look to do that.
Thank you.
Madam President, I would just, if you would not mind, as a point of order, I believe the PTA president would also like to come and thank the board.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to invite the students up first, if that's okay. I know they have studying and work to do, and we are about students and studying and work. So I'm going to open the microphone for any students that are joining us. And again, I ask parents and community members to wait to the later portion. But if you'd like to join us, you can come join us at this podium right down here and just state your name and address.
Juliet Dyax, 20 Wellesley Road. On behalf of the senior class, senior year is supposed to be the most treasured years of our lives and something we never want to end. However, this year, kids are rushing through the motions of school just to talk to the rest of their classmates that they did not get to see during the week. Although this is not the staff's fault or the school's, I'm here to say the circumstances we are in and the accepted school situation is not working. Students are falling behind, and the balance between teachers focusing on their online and in-class students remains unfound. Imagine every activity you would look forward to as a senior, like the Salt Marsh trips, the school senior trip, Red and Blue, sports, Mercy Ball, Homecoming Weekend, Spirit Week, and so much more, all currently postponed indefinitely. There seems to be nothing to look forward to. Students' mental health is deteriorating, and the staff has not realized how much we are struggling. This year, students feel there is no real student-to-teacher connection or relationship compared to their past years. I'm here to start the conversation for my class of 2021. How can you get all the seniors to be in school full-time to end our year together? And how are you looking out for students' mental health this year? I've heard of many schools forming plans, playing sports together, and getting their seniors a solution. What is Southside doing for us? Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Skylar DeLuca, 118 Arundel Road. I'm currently a senior in high school, and I believe that at least the seniors should go back full time. This is the seniors' last year, and so much has already been taken away from us. We understand that the teachers and staff are still getting used to the new normal of the COVID situation, and so are the students. There has been much success in not having COVID cases due to the hybrid learning, but I believe that the school is ready to take the next step. The struggle that the students are facing this school year is a serious matter. Personally, I'm not successful in online learning. I love being in school, seeing my friends, and having the unlimited access to help from my teachers. Due to COVID, this is definitely limited, and I'm aware that other schools have the space to go back full-time, but we can solve this. Our students' mental health is also suffering. The workload on top of college applications is very frustrating, especially when the online and in-school students are very confused in the curriculum. The students have already lost everything we look forward to in the school year. We need at least one thing to get us through the rest of the year. I hope we can put a plan into place and help the seniors. Thank you.
Any other students like to join? Oh, we have somebody.
Hi, my name is Michael Grabowski, 304 Princeton Road, and I was wondering if you would consider bringing back just the senior class for full-time learning.
Thank you. Would any other students like to join us at the microphone?
Hi, Panayoti George Ellis, 42 Seaman Avenue. I think that this year has really taught me a lot because I know it used to be a kid's dream to go off from school for so long, but I was new in town when COVID-19 hit, and I have not been able to make friends properly all the time, and even in 9th grade, you only have 4 more years left to do that kind of stuff before you have to go and work in college. That's a lot of work. You have to make all your time. I'm pretty sure you guys work a lot. We want to be able to, be around with all our friends, and, you get in contact with some of your friends, you realize that you can't see them in school because they're online, you're in school, or somebody's fully online, always at home, it's isolated. I thought solitary confinement had devastating effects. So, maybe the same devastating effects will happen if so many people are online, going back and forth and doing all that stuff. So we gotta find some way in a million years to happen in 2 or 3 months, so we can at least get a little bit of the year together, so we can be together and do just be normal, back to normal. Our students, the students that come into us complain about the school, complain about having all the work to do, but then when they are taken out and they are given the opportunity to stay out for so long, they realize, wait a minute, we can't have our friends. We're not going to complain with our friends if we don't have them around us. And we can't do things together because we have to wear these masks. So these masks probably got to go away too. People like to get close to some others. It's amazing how a basic handshake or hugging other people is dangerous. That's got to change, otherwise people are going to go insane eventually. I've seen it. I don't want to see any more. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other students? I really appreciate you guys coming to the microphone and joining us tonight. We really do understand. It takes a lot to get up at that microphone. A lot of adults don't like to do it, so I really do respect you doing that. Thank you so much. I believe Emma Travers asked to come up to the microphone. You can join us up here. Thank you.
Hello, Emma Travers, 18 Seaman Avenue. I'm here as the co-president of the Rockville Centre Council of PTAs. And with me are representatives, presidents from all of our units. So we have Jean Harris from the high school, Karen Burgee from the middle school, Erica Messier from Covert, Brianda Manella from Hewitt, Tara Kelly is here from Riverside. Watson's missing because they couldn't get a babysitter, but they're joining us on Zoom, and they're very much a part of this as well. Lauren Del Giorno is here from Wilson, and Debbie Cuevas is here representing our SEP parents. So I don't just stand here myself, I stand here and I want you to imagine all of the parents behind me. This time of year we usually come and do some sort of board appreciation, and that would take the form of cookies or cake or fruit, and obviously we can't do that this year. So we kind of batted around a bunch of ideas about what we could do to show our appreciation for you, and we weren't coming up with anything brilliant until we did what everyone in this district does when they have a problem they can't answer, and we asked Jackie Wong what she thought we should do. And so Jackie asked us just to come up and speak to our appreciation for you. So you have all been where we are. We're PTA presidents. You all came up through PTA, and you believe in that core PTA mission in speaking for every child with one voice. You also know the amount of work that goes into being a PTA president, and I wonder when you decided to run for the board if you had any idea of the amount of work that you would be presented with once you got here. The documents to read, the meetings to attend, both in person and Zoom now, and the very, very difficult decisions that you would be facing as board members. You have done something quite remarkable. You have brought our children back to school in a time of pandemic. This year, more than any other, I think your volunteer part-time job has turned into something very, very different. And we thank you for that. You've brought our children back, you've brought our community together, and you have found consensus in a place where there was no clear path moving forward. I know that you have heard voices from each side of every issue, and that people have been in extreme disagreement, and you have listened to those voices, and you have found a middle ground that everyone could come back here and enjoy this education once again. So you have done that, and you've done it with integrity, and you've done it with wisdom, and you have done it with an awful lot of humor as well, which I greatly appreciate. So whatever we've worked on together, be that forums or PTA stuff, gardens, budgets, picking a new superintendent, or reopening schools, know that we are greatly appreciative of everything that you do for us and continue to do for us, and the service that you are performing for our whole community. So we wanted to thank you in person, but we also wanted to do something else. And so all the money that we would have spent on treats for this evening's meeting, we have put together, and we are making a donation to the Rockville Centre Education Fund in your honour. Because saying thanks was never about the cookies and the treats. It was always about what you're doing for our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's such an honor. Thank you. And we appreciate our PTAs as well, so thank you so much. Okay, we're going to, I just wanted to open up any questions for the board of Mr. Chang's report.
Yes, I had a question. Mr. Chang, you referenced the first return point coming up for students that started out remote but wanted to come back. How is that being communicated from home to school?
I believe it's already been communicated
Okay.
through the principals.
So they already know
Yeah.
who's coming back, and
And I think people have been in interest. Some of the parents have actually come even before saying that they would be coming back, and so they have that. I'm sure we will put out another notice. I've also been kind of putting it out there anytime that I've had an opportunity to speak
Okay.
and on the live stream. So we'll continue to make sure people are notified. Maybe we'll even post it on our website just as a notification re-entry point
Great,
on
thank you.
November 1st.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chang, you brought up the after-school strength and conditioning program. Could you let us know where that'll take place? What schools?
As of right now, it's right here at the high school and at the middle school. They're going to iron out a few other details. I think we're able to identify individuals who would want to supervise our students during that time. And it will be, from what I know, the back field over here, as well as the field back at the middle school. And it will adhere to all the physical education guidelines that we already have in place in terms of distance, what types of activities, and all those other things that have been placed in the guidelines for physical education.
You also made reference that there'll be information going out next week, but just to give like a heads up to people, will that be, you just come as you want, or is it going to require a sign up, or how do we plan to move forward with that?
Yeah, those details are still being worked out. There is a challenge because by executive order, we have gathering rules that we have to abide by. So that they're definitely looking at either getting people possibly to sign up. I think I'm going to leave that to the administration to do that legwork, and once we have that, we'll make sure that that information gets shared.
Okay. And will we send a letter out to home? Will it be in your updates?
It'll definitely be in my updates. I'm pretty sure we'll probably have it before then. So that will go out district-wide to the high school and to the middle school through the athletic department.
Okay, thank you.
And just to reiterate, because John and I also sit on the athletics committee, when it was vetted there, it would be open for grades 6 to 12, not 7 to 12, 6 to 12. And for anybody that was interested in it, they were going to open it up. So like Mr. Chang had said, they are working out details in terms of which days of the week and times. But it's kind of an after-school kind of fitness camp style. Get the kids outside, get them motivated, get their emotional health back up and running, and a good way to connect with adults and students. So we're excited to offer that. I think it's going to be great for the kids, so we appreciate the work from our athletics director and the administration on that.
And also the committee.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so any other questions for Mr. Chang before we move on? Okay. Then we also have a guest with us tonight from our external auditors, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bartels for their report.
Yeah, we have from our auditors, Tom Smith. He's going to do a short presentation. Mr. Smith works for EFPR Group. There are external auditors. Every year we're required to have an external audit of all of our financial statements. So that's what he's here for.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tom Smith. I'm here to present the results of the audit for June 30th, 2020. We met with the audit committee tonight where we presented the financial statements. We did issue clean, unmodified statements on the financial statements as well as the extra classroom student activity fund statements. We also audited the single audit, which is the major federal awards. We also do a report on the district's internal control. If there was any weaknesses, we'd have to report that to you, and we did not come across any weaknesses that need to be reported. We performed the audit remotely this year, which required a lot of extra work from management, so I really want to thank them for providing everything for us. From a numerical standpoint, we issue a district-wide statement where the expenses exceeded revenues by $9.8 million. That is due to the long-term health insurance liabilities. On the general fund, where you really operate the district, your revenue was larger than your expenses by $3.3 million. That's really because of your increased tax levy. So your fund balance increased by 3.3, but your reserves increased by $2.9 million, and that's really because you set up a teacher's retirement system reserve this year for $1 million, as well as set aside money for the employee retirement system of $1.25 million. At year end, your unassigned fund balance was 3.3% of next year's expenses, so you are below the 4% legally required amount. Just to put that in perspective, the districts we are seeing, about 50% of them are over this year, and that's really because all the expenses got cut at year end. So that really speaks to how well management did at making sure that you were in compliance with the law. A couple other things really to point out that we see across the board is that the school lunch funds are really losing most, if not all, fund balance. At year end, your fund balance was $118. And really, we are seeing that almost every district is in a deficit. So it's something just to be aware of as you manage it going forward. 'Cause your expenses are, for the most part, fixed while your sales are decreasing. A couple of things to note: that we issue a management letter for any recommendations that we see. And a couple of big things are there's 2 new standards coming up that management will have to be aware of to implement in the next couple of years' financial statements. And we are going to work with management to make sure that those do get implemented. We also have one other comment that the extra classroom activity funds had 25 inactive clubs. And that's something we also see across the board with schools closing. So it's something just to be aware of. So I really just wanted to turn it over to you if you have any questions on financial statements or the audits.
You brought up the school lunch fund.
Mm-hmm.
We continued paying everybody as the governor's order through the end of the year. We also continued serving lunch. Is that correct, Ms. Bertels?
That's correct.
We serve lunch through actually all summer long.
Yes.
So do we get aid on that?
Yeah, we are reimbursed for those services that we did over the summer.
Okay.
In the spring, we were not fully reimbursed for everything. We did provide lunches to all students who had asked for it. We did not get full reimbursement for all of those. We have gotten it for the summer months, and we are getting reimbursed now for the fall, for everything that we're serving now during school.
And will that reimbursement actually go to the school lunch fund, or does it get cycled in somewhere else?
No, that would be attributed to the school lunch fund.
Okay. Okay. And then the fund balance increase, that was mostly from expenses that we did not have for last year.
That's correct.
And we'll be able to use that to offset some of the state aid cuts. So it's a good thing.
Yes. Yeah, that was our hope. If we do hit a 20% cut in our state aid, that would be somewhere around $2.5 million. So the fact that we picked up a little over $3 million in a fund balance really helped towards that if we have to go down that road and utilize that fund balance to offset the state aid revenue. So fortunately, we're in good shape if it comes to that, and hopefully that would just be a one-time issue this year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I also want to say thank you to Ronnie Lalo also for all of her hard work and getting all that done virtually. Thank you so much, Ronnie. We're going to move on to our committee reports. For finance, Mrs. Dion.
Okay. I have to find it, sorry. Thank you, Ms. Hackett. The Finance Committee met earlier this week, Mr. Bartels, Mr. O'Shea, and myself. And I think the first thing was our free meals for all students has been extended to the end of the school year. Mr. Bartels, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, the USDA allowed the school districts to utilize waivers to continue to serve lunch to all students for free for the rest of the school year. A few weeks ago, they had changed it to just through the end of December or whenever the funds ran out. That has changed, and they've now extended it through the end of the school, the complete school year through June 2021.
So we will be reimbursed for all of that, so we should not see a deficit in our lunch fund.
Correct.
How are we getting that information out?
We'll be posting that on the district website. I think Mr. Chang's going to include that in one of his updates to the community. And we're going to try to have the principals assist in making announcements at the buildings to try to increase that participation and make sure students are aware of that.
Right, because right now our participation is low.
Yeah, it's surprisingly low. It's about 30% right now as an average across all the buildings.
So a good thing, good way to get interest going. Okay. Yeah. We also spoke about our capital projects. The masonry work in the middle school is complete. Again, Mr. Bartels, I don't know if you want to talk about that. It's been something we've talked about for a couple of years.
Yeah, it's been an ongoing issue that we've had at the middle school with leaks and a lot of the exterior walls. So this project is really meant to try to shore up that exterior part of the building to try to eliminate all those leaks. So there have been work done on virtually all sides of the building as well as the courtyard walls to stem those leaks. So we will have our custodians checking them very carefully after each rain to make sure that that work has done what it's supposed to do.
Fabulous. So far, so good?
So far, so good.
Okay. We also have some current projects underway throughout the district that are capital projects, drop ceilings in Hewitt, hallway lighting at Watson, and fence repair at Riverside. All these are happening outside of the school day.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. Mr. Bartels updated us on the financial reports that the district has to file on an annual basis with the federal and the state government. One of them is the audited financial statements, which we just were presented with, as well as a school fund transparency report. Would you like to discuss that?
Yeah, the state a couple of years ago came out with some additional reporting requirements for every school district in New York State. So the ST3 has been the standard. That's where we report all of our expenses from all of our funds to the state. The school funding transparency is now a document that comes out. It's based on budgeted expenses and it goes to give a per student, per building cost to try to break down those expenses. It can be extremely confusing because each school has very different characteristics, especially here in Rockville Center. You have some schools with very low class sizes, other schools with higher class sizes. We have some different special education programs in different buildings. So each one of those contributes to the different cost per pupil. In addition, one of the ways they break out the benefits is they ascribe the same percentage of benefits to every employee. Well, every employee doesn't get the same percentage of benefits. For example, teacher aides don't get health insurance, whereas teachers and some other full-time employees do. So it kind of makes it a little confusing to try to generate that. But having said that, our average cost per student is about $30,000 per student. Now, it goes from between $25,000 and $35,000 depending on the elementary school. Both the middle school and the high school are very close to that $30,000 number. but it does vary at the elementary level. The third report is more of a federal report. It's based on our actual expenditures from last year. It tries to do a similar comparison. We're still working on that report. That report is due at the end of December, and we're kind of right in the middle of trying to get that completed right now, and that's based on our actual expenses from last year.
Okay, thank you. Then we moved on. Is it every 5 years we need to test waters from all water sources in the buildings for lead? We discovered elevated levels of lead in several places in 6 of our 7 buildings. Only 2 instances has the lead been detected in water fountains, and in both instances the water fountains are shut off, and signs have been placed at sinks alerting everyone that the water should not be consumed from the source. It is important to note, and I think we talked about it, you were going to look up more, but because of COVID, all water fountains have been turned off in our buildings because you can't drink from water fountains. So the filter water fountains are on. We don't know if that had something to do with the elevated lead that was being tested.
Right, we may never know that, but yes, the water in the buildings was off for a much longer period of time, or not off, but not running through the pipes with the closing of the schools in the spring. So we don't know if that contributed to it or not. The increased levels are slight elevation levels over what the requirements are. Many of them are repeat offenders from the prior years where we already have signs on those sinks. There were sinks that had signs on them from last time around that didn't meet that same threshold, so they were under the requirements this year. So it's just a hit or miss. The ones we're really concerned about are the water fountains, and that's why those are taken out of service right away. So.
But other than taking them out of service, there's nothing really we could do.
No.
So we just turn them off and wait and test them again in a couple of years.
Correct.
Okay. And that is the Finance Committee report.
Is there any other resolution that needs to happen in terms of elevated lead? Any guidance that we get in terms of when that's found or determined?
No, other than we have to go through and either shut off or replace the faucet of the sink, or mostly with the sinks is just putting up a warning that it's not really consumable water.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the Finance Committee? No? Thank you, Mrs. Dion, Mr. O'Shea, Mr. Bartels. We're moving on to curriculum. Mrs. Barry?
Yes, the Curriculum Committee met on October 14th with Dr. Sampino and Mrs. Farzani and myself. Items discussed regarding curriculum. At the secondary level, in lieu of progress reports, parents were asked to check ParaSchool using the quick lookup feature to check on their students' progress thus far. The RVC Ed Foundation had extended their grant cycle to October 14th. Proposals are in and are under review currently. The PTA Curriculum Committee has been established, and it's set to begin next week on October 28th for their first meeting. The district hosted a welcome back meeting with translators on October 18th for parents of ENL students. It went very well. We had translators for Mandarin and Spanish present. Some topics presented were the Easy Screen app, health updates given by Ms. Algerio Vento, important email addresses, translating websites, the parent portal, reentry dates, lunch, childcare. Ms. Gigante from Project Great also attended, and they also addressed other topics and answered questions. The half days on October 19th and October 14th went well. We received a lot of positive feedback from the elementary staff. Regarding the half days, it allowed teachers time to plan with colleagues, share best practices on remote learning, sharing what works, what doesn't, and contribute new ideas. In the technology aspect, they examined Seesaw app, Google Meets, Google Classroom, Clever. There were workshops offered on all of the above. Using the new BOCES 4 science kits were also addressed, and homework was discussed. On the assessment topic, the NWAs are currently underway, and small group instruction was addressed as well. Looking very different this year, of course. Groups are being kept very small, 3 to 4 students at a time, with barriers, masks, washing hands before returning to the class as well, washing hands if it's a pull-out service. Items discussed in the technology aspect. The district continues to work on plans to make sure that we're ready in the event of a closure, making sure all students have iPads, all students are logged into their Google accounts on their iPads, all our essential apps are installed, including Google Meet, Clever, Classroom, Seesaw, etc. They want to make sure that all students can get onto Google Meet, whether it's through Classroom, Seesaw, or directly through Meet, and making sure all students that need to get into Clever can. And do all students have a list of their username and password for Google and Clever? Elementary teachers are working on a just-in-case folder if a class had to go full remote. And the district is continuing to train permanent subs. Dr. Sampino, feel free to jump in if I missed anything or if you wanted to add anything.
Madam President and Madam Vice President, if I could just ask Dr. Sampino, I know she and I had a quick discussion, so just to give a little bit more color of the half-day with our staff, because I know a lot of great things that happened that day in terms of planning with our teachers.
Hello, am I on?
Yeah, I think you got to push the back. Yeah.
It's red. Hello. Yes, first I'd like to thank Superintendent Chang, the Board of Ed, and all the parents and guardians out there for supporting the half-day. I know having a half-day is not easy. As a parent, I know it's tough, but nothing this year, as you know, has been easy. And really, we needed the time for the teachers and the teacher assistants and the principals and the nurses and everybody to regroup. And that's what they did. We really had a wonderful feedback. They shared best practices, had time to plan, develop lessons, practice those lessons. There were workshops offered, as Trustee Barry had mentioned, Google Classroom going a little deeper, how to respond to student work. We had teachers offer workshops. We had Dylan Jensen offer Nearpod. We had Matt Greenberg offering Google breakout rooms. We had our professional developer from Nassau BOCES available to really work on Clever and Google Meet and Seesaw and train permanent subs, because as you know, we have a lot of challenges faced with kids on quarantine, teachers on quarantine, parents on quarantine. It's a very interesting school year. We thank you so much for your patience, and I truly thank all the teachers, the principals, the teacher assistants, the nurses, the aides, the custodians who really have been working tremendously hard. And again, I thank you for that half day. It was truly valuable on a secondary and elementary level. We really received a lot of positive feedback. And again, I know it's a burden, but it really was very important for our teachers to get that time. They make it look easy, but it really is not easy. The other thing I'd just like to add, that E&L meeting was a district-wide meeting the first year. I really want to thank our E&L teachers. They came together. They did such a beautiful job with the agenda. There's so much information out there, and it's important for all of our community to understand all the things that are out there, and they really did an amazing job. They pulled people in. So I just wanted to thank them again. And that's about it. Am I forgetting anything? Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sampino, has there been any conversation yet about how we might handle elementary parent-teacher conferences or checkpoints?
Not yet. We will. It actually came up a little earlier, and I don't think we were ready yet. It's like we kind of tackle one thing at a time, but it will definitely be on the horizon of how we will do that. It's, again, there are so many challenges that come with this school year, and we accept all ideas. So all ideas are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the curriculum committee? Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Barry, Mrs. Farazani, and Dr. Sampino. Moving on to policy, Mrs. Dion, I think you're taking it back again, are you?
I am. We're gonna have to work on this.
Gotta share better, right?
Yeah. So the policy committee met on October 13th with Ms. Wong, Superintendent Chang, Ms. Hackett, myself, Mr. Bartels was invited, as well as Ms. Lalo and Ms. Higgins. We reviewed policies 1335, 5520, and the regulation for 5520. As a result of our annual audit, our auditor had recommended that the district expand board policy related to the extra classroom activity funds in order to address the duties of the club advisor and the student treasurer positions. Ms. Wong got language for policy changes from Erie One BOCES. We reviewed policy 1335 and decided that no change was necessary. Rather, we would put additional language into the regulation of 5520. So tonight on our agenda, you will see policy 5520, the extra classroom activities fund at stage 1, and regulation 5520, the safeguarding, accounting, and auditing of the extra classroom activities fund at stage 1. Also, as a separate note, the committee continues to work on the district's policy on naming and memorials. We're still researching it and discussing it, and until we have one together, a moratorium on all memorials will remain in place.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions for the policy committee? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Dion and Mrs. Wong. And finally, we have our topics related to PPS, SEL, mental health, and student services, and that's Mrs. Farazani.
Yes. Am I on?
I don't think so, Christine, I don't hear it. Press that button in the back.
Yeah. It sounds like
Thank you.
There you go.
It was happening before too, I apologize. We had our meeting on October 15th. The attendees were Dr. Noreen Leahy, myself, Superintendent Chang. The items we discussed were the Code of Conduct. The District Code of Conduct is required to be renewed annually. The annual review and period for 30-day public comment occurred back in the spring. The plain language version was mailed to parents recently, as is required by law. However, the full version, which is quite lengthy, is available on the district website. The Long Island Consortium of Excellence and Equity in Education is once again continuing its relationship with RVC, as we have for the past 10 years. This year, there will be a series of 3 4-part virtual seminars consisting of 2-hour sessions of relevant topics for equity and excellence in education. The Drug and Alcohol and Violence Prevention Task Force continues its affiliation with the RVC Coalition for Youth. The first meeting of the 2020-2021 school year took place on October 5th. The theme was the continued fight against the legalization of marijuana. October is Overdose Awareness Month. The Rockville Center Police Department gave an update on the numbers of overdose and underage drinking violations. They unfortunately appear to be on the rise. The Rockville Center Police Department is committed to monitoring the area referred to as the Bridge, where underage drinking has been a persistent issue and concern for the community. The Mental Health Task Force Reentry Committee has merged with the Mental Health Task Force, which was formed in response to the state mental health mandates and our district suicide post-prevention interventions. The first joint meeting focused on the district's initiatives in identifying and prioritizing students at risk. As discussed at a previous board meeting, there were post-COVID closure surveys conducted to determine those at risk due to COVID exposure factors. For example, if someone close to the student was seriously ill or died due to COVID, if there were financial stress due to the loss of employment by a parent or other such risk factors. Surveys are being evaluated with an emphasis on connecting students with trusted adults. There are mental health check-ins being conducted by staff universally and specifically where indicated. The medical screening app is working well, and the nursing staff continues to follow up with reminders and assistance for parents who fail to commit timely screenings. Staff and parents are reminded about the importance of submitting this medical screening information as requested. The district is required to provide detailed accounts of the numbers of people exposed to COVID-19, those who were tested, the results of this testing, and quarantined individuals. This information is maintained by our building nurses and reported to the state daily. That's all.
Thank you. Any questions?
No.
Thank you, Mrs. Ferrazzani. Thank you, Dr. Leahy. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, this is also our public hearing for our district-wide safety plan. So I'd like to turn it over to Superintendent Chang for the review of that plan.
Thank you, Madam President. I will yield the floor to Mr. Bartels and Dr. Leahy for the presentation of the district safety plan.
The district school-wide safety plan is something that came about from the SAVE Law Act implemented by New York State a number of years ago, and that's for safe schools against violence in education. It really started with building security and addressing threats and evacuations. A couple of years ago, they added some mental health components, and this year we've added health emergency protocols. So that's why this committee kind of shared with Dr. Leahy and myself. The safety plan is something that's required to be updated every single year, and we have to have a hearing on it. So what we do is we put everything together at the beginning of the school year. We make the changes that we feel necessary for personnel and staff, and we're now presenting it to the community as an update. We'll have 30 days where public can make comment before the board can then act to implement the plan. This plan is actually the one we will have in effect for next September 1st, because we're required to have them in place by September 1st of every year. But we can't get them over the summers because the staffing changes and so forth. It doesn't make sense to do that. So we do it at this point in the year, as soon as we can, get it out to the public, and then we may make some additional changes as we go through the year. There's also building level plans, which are confidential, proprietary, and they cannot be disclosed to the public. The building level safety plans are done within each building. There's a committee in each building that goes through that. It's much more detailed than the district-wide plan. It gets into more specific details about where they will go in an evacuation, what the different codes may be for notifying teachers and other staff members. So that's why it's kept confidential within those buildings. So that's where we are. So we have the update to the plan. I don't know, Dr. Leahy, you have anything to add?
Yeah, so there were some updates a couple of years ago, as Mr. Bartels mentioned, that refer to our response to mental health emergencies. And so the district did quite a bit of work around identifying what our crisis plans might look like, and they were actually designed by building and are available to all staff members, so we're prepared for that eventuality. It's also updated this year for the emergency to national health emergencies or health crises, and so that obviously was very timely and relevant work. So both of those are worth taking a look at.
I just also wanted to mention a few other things. In addition to the safety plan, some of the other things that have gone into place in the district that we really don't talk about a lot, but I think it's worth kind of reiterating. We have security guards at all of our buildings. We added them at the elementary schools a couple of years ago. We have door swipes, so all staff have our identification badges. They act as door swipes so we can keep the doors in the buildings locked during the school day, and then staff can get in without keeping the doors open. We implemented the entry vestibules for all visitors, along with the visitors scanning with the ID scanning. We have many cameras, both inside and outside our buildings. We have over 500 cameras spread throughout the district and in all of our school buildings. Police actually also have access to those cameras in the event of an emergency. They don't monitor the cameras on an ongoing basis, but if there is an emergency in the building, they do have real-time access where they can jump in and see what's going on in the buildings. We've implemented an E911 system, so staff can get emergencies, contact the police immediately. Those 911 calls will go to the Rockville Center Police for the Rockville Center schools. And administrators actually have the ability to listen in on those 911 calls. So if there's a call made anywhere within the district, within a school building in the district, the administrators, a couple of central administrators and administrators within that particular building can actually hear that 911 call go on in progress, so we know what's happening district-wide. We've also done, we had the hack last year of our computer systems, so we've added a bit of cybersecurity software. We've had some audits done and shored up those measures, as well as making sure that our offsite data storage works so that something like that will not happen to us again in the future. In addition, we'll have all the health security. So, as many of you know, all the different expenses we've had to reinforce the health and safety of our staff with all the PPE and for the students as well. The cleaning products, hand sanitizers, the desk guards and barriers we've gotten. So we're trying to provide safety and security for all parts of the district.
Thank you for all the hard work on that and the committee as well. Any questions from board members regarding the safety plan? No. At this time, I'd like to open up the microphone for specific questions regarding the district safety-wide plan. No? Jackie, do we still have people in the Commons room, or have we merged? Okay, just wanted to make sure we didn't have to wait for anybody to come down. Okay, thank you very much. Again, thank you for all the hard work. Dr. Leahy, Mr. Bartels, and the committee. We're moving on to our policies. As Mrs. Dion mentioned earlier, we have two policies that are coming onto the agenda tonight in stage 1, starting with 5520, which is our extra classroom activities fund policy. So again, we had gotten language that we had to update here. Talks a little bit about how these are going to be run, that we have a faculty advisor appointed by the building principal, a central treasurer. So we added some language here and changed some things. Any questions on 5520?
No.
Okay. Any objection to moving it forward?
No. No.
Okay, thank you. We'll move that to stage 2. And then associated with that, as Mrs. Dion mentioned, we added some language to 5520R, which is the regulation. Just a very short and brief changes here of how this would be executed. Any questions about 5520R?
Yes, I had a question. I thought on page 4 we talk about a faculty auditor. I thought we discussed not having a faculty auditor. I thought we discussed having those functions assigned to the advisor or to the faculty counselor and merging them, right?
We did have that discussion because we had even taken out faculty auditor out of the first page.
Right.
Yep. So, Mrs. Dion, are you recommending we remove that section on page 4?
I didn't think it was, I thought we were assigning these duties to...
Should be like the assistant principal or principal.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we talked about.
So change faculty auditor to assistant principal or administrator?
Administrator.
Right, it
Or
was...
designee.
Well, no, I don't think we're not changing the title. I think we want to put this under somebody else, right? It's not a different person.
What we could say is administrator or designee. I think that's what. The word designee was, I believe, discussed last time.
Well, we also have in number 2, faculty advisor. And then
Yes.
further on down, we have the point she's making of the faculty auditor. Are they one and the same person?
No, they shouldn't.
They
should not
shouldn't be, right?
No.
It reads on the first page almost that the central treasurer is taking, it used to be the faculty auditor, now it's the central treasurer, right?
Right.
Number 4, under basic principles up
Right.
top.
Right.
So does that mean,
And then within that paragraph, they mention both the people, so they're not the same person.
right,
Right. Can we get some clarity on this one? Can we take another look at this one, please, and give us,
Yes.
thank you. So maybe we should hold this one
Yeah.
at stage 1. We'll get some clarity on it. Any objections to keeping this one at stage 1? Okay, we'll revisit that one. Make sure we have all the right people with the right titles.
Yeah.
Okay, then we had a few policies that we didn't have on the last meeting's agenda because it was a public work session, but because tonight's a regular meeting, they're coming back on. And those are in stage 2 currently, starting with policy 1410, and that is our policy on policies. So at the last meeting, the board had come to a consensus to alter the wording so that we could have at least 2 regular meetings be part of the process that the policies follow through. Were there any questions about 1410? Okay. Any objection to moving it forward?
No.
Thank you. We'll move that one to stage 3. And then also in stage 2 was 1510, which was our regular board meetings. We had added language about video conferencing, notice. We had vetted that the last time as well. Any questions about 1510?
No.
Any objection with moving it forward?
No.
Okay, we'll move that to stage 3 as well, thank you. And then finally, we have 3 policies in stage 3, starting with 3520, that's extraordinary circumstances. Very small changes made there. Any questions? No. Any objection to moving it for approval?
No.
Okay, we'll move that one forward. Thank you. 7145, which is remote learning. Any questions?
no,
Okay, any objections to moving it forward for approval? Thank you. Move that one forward as well. And finally, 6570, which is remote working. This is where we added a lot of the etiquette. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's the other one. This is the different working arrangements. Any questions on that one? Any objections? We'll move that forward to approval. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so that concludes our policies, and we will move on to opportunity for superintendent. Mr. Chang?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to talk about and just kind of address this idea of back to normalcy. It's something that I've been saying over the past couple of weeks. And one of the things that I've felt really grateful for, and there's a lot of things to feel grateful for tonight with the extraordinary students that we saw, the incredible retirees that we've honored, and the families who've come out and to watch our kids be honored in elections that are happening with our kids and being involved. The more we're able to do that, and the more we're able to get back to the work of what it is to be around students, I think the more empowered we'll be to go and battle this pandemic that we are in. And we're fortunate, and we're extremely fortunate that we're able to do this tonight. And I'm so proud to say that we are at a board meeting, and we've are here in the normalcy of honoring our retirees, our students, our board. And it's incredibly important, and it's, it is not lost on me how monumental tonight is and how grateful I am that we are here. And we're going to try as a district, and as we focus and as our leadership starts to get more into the strategy of what it is to be Rockville Center, what it is to be an educator here, I feel that we're going to get closer and closer to our efficient frontier of the things that we should be doing, and are looking forward to as things hopefully get better. So to the sense of normalcy, I have great pride and great thanks. And with that thanks, I ask that we all commit to each other in the school district, outside of the school districts, in this community. And I hope this message doesn't just last in this community. I really do hope it goes all throughout Nassau County and on the island. Because only by us doing what we need to be doing and adhering to the things that we need to adhere to are we going to be able to continue seeing more normal on a day-to-day basis. So those are my thoughts tonight. I'm extremely proud of the students. I'm proud of the students who came out tonight and spoke their mind and gave us their thoughts. It is the beginning of you developing into adulthood to give us what it is that you think, what it is that you believe. Getting involved in civic engagement is incredibly important. So I'm honored that you came and shared with us your thoughts. And they're a great example for us to all follow. So I appreciate our students as well. But those are my comments tonight, Madam President.
Thank you. Mr. O'Shea?
Thank you, Mrs. Hackett. Of course, I'd like to congratulate once again our national, I have to put my glasses on, I'm sorry. Our National Merit Scholarship winners, our student government officers and class presidents, and like to wish our best wishes to our retiring staff members. I'd like to bring to everybody's attention that Northwell Health Cohen's Children's Behavioral Health Center is offering an Erase the Stigma presentation on October 27th from 8 to 9 p.m. I know that the district's been sending out emails for it. As we talk about the need for, mental health concerns for our students and staff and family. This is a family event. They're inviting the whole family to take place, and I'd urge you all to go to the website and you can register, and it looks to be a great event. And I'd just like to bring your attention to one other thing around the district, around the village. The Youth Coalition, the Rockville Center Police Department, and Rockville Center Schools have gotten together, and they are promoting a You Are Not Alone, Pause and Remember, There Is Always Hope sticker program. There'll be cards in restaurants and stickers going out on pizza boxes. I'd just like to remind everybody, take a look and keep the number handy. It's for any reason that you feel depressed or anxious, or, it's to call the Long Island Crisis Center. So that promotion's going on now and will go through the end of the month. Just something to keep in mind. There's always hope for everybody. There's a place to go to get help and someone to talk to. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. O'Shea. Mrs. Dion?
Thank you. I too would like to congratulate our students, our National Merit Honor students, and our children who are stepping up into our government. It can be thankless, but sometimes it's not. And I think it's really impressive, and I thank them for doing that. Congratulate all of our retirees. I wish all these people were here, but they're gone, so. And our chamber singers were just amazing. I'm sorry that they couldn't be here, but I loved hearing what they had to say. I am delighted that we're offering our strength and conditioning, not classes, activities after school in the next couple of weeks. And I thank you, Mr. Chang, for doing that, along with Ms. Rosetto and everyone who's working on it. I I think Mr. Chang is 100% right. We take these baby steps, and no one thinks it's enough, but it's the safest way to do this. I serve on Nassau Suffolk school boards. After every meeting, or at the end of every meeting, we go around the table, right? We go around the Zoom, and we say what's going on in our districts. And we are one of the few districts who are represented at that table who have not had to shut down a school for a day, or 4 days, or a week, or 2 weeks. The stories that I am told are about large outbreaks, and we're not experiencing that. And there's a lot of reasons, and there's a lot of people to thank for that. I thank our administration for that, everybody who's sitting here, all of our building principals, all of our teachers, and our staff and our custodians. But I also thank our parents and our kids, because we're in this together. I know we all want to come back. We all want to take our masks off. I'm dying to, right? But if we don't maintain our vigilance, we're not going to be able to be here. There are school districts that haven't even done this live meeting yet. I think it's great. It's not, it's not what it was, but we're getting there. So I thank everybody, and I remind everybody to remain vigilant, especially as we hit holidays, and I hope everybody has a safe and happy Halloween. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mrs. Dion. Mrs. Farazani?
Thank you. I too want to congratulate the National Merit Scholars on their very impressive achievement, and our retirees, and I wish them all the best. And I'm very impressed with the student government and all the students who came up tonight to speak. It's not an easy thing to do for an adult, and it's a really great task to come up as a child and express what you want to say in front of a room full of adults and administrators and your superintendent. That is not an easy thing to do. So we thank you, and we are listening to you. We are in week 7 of our reopening of schools, and having been involved in the various reopening committees over the summer and the beginning of school, I'm so very proud of the work of our educators and our administrators and staff are doing so far. It is not an easy task, but through teamwork and creativity, our children are back in school. It is by no means perfect. We have read your letters containing various viewpoints on the subject, and there are many. There are social and emotional ramifications associated with not only the hybrid learning, but with all of the things that are associated with the pandemic as well. We still have a lot of work ahead of us as a district to provide the best possible education for our students in the safest possible manner for our entire community. To that end, I would like to propose that we form a committee to navigate a roadmap with the goal of getting all students back in full-time. We have a plan if we need to pivot to full remote, and we are currently living with the hybrid plan. But to accomplish the goal of full person instruction will take the same effort and determination used to allow this blended learning reopening that we currently have. Should pandemic conditions and federal and state regulations allow full opening, we will need a concrete strategy that considers additional safety protocols, spatial constraints, as well as a host of other necessary adjustments. The reopening committees were composed of teachers, administrators, medical personnel, parents, and other stakeholders, and as such, they provided varying viewpoints and ideas that allowed our schools to open thus far. None of us know what the pandemic will bring. We've prepared for the worst, and I think we now have to plan for the best. And I think if we have a committee that is dedicated to looking at all of the data and has many stakeholders in it, we could possibly come up with some solutions to bring more people back, if not all people back, depending on what happens in the pandemic, but we owe it to the community to try. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Farazani. Mrs. Berry?
I'll also echo the congratulations to our students that were recognized tonight, our National Merit Scholars and our student government leaders and our class presidents. as well as their parents, all of their teachers and administrators that have supported them throughout their academic career thus far. It has been a while since we've had students here with us, and nothing brings us more joy than to be able to see them and celebrate their accomplishments with them. Congratulations to all of our retirees. Mr. Chang, I think you captured it so beautifully with your words to them. At the end of a career, what means the most to you is exactly what means the most to you on day one of your career, which is really making meaningful connections with students, and their legacy will be felt for a really long time in our district. So thank you to everyone that was here tonight and all of you that were watching from home. Thank you, Dr. Zuar, Dr. Freiling, the students, as always. Even though they were performing remotely tonight, they still gave me the goosebumps and brought tears to my eyes, and just so deeply grateful that they took time to do that for us. So thank you. Thank you to all the members of the PTA and Mrs. Travers for her kind words representing them. And thank you for all that you do for our students. Thank you to the students that came to the mic. You exemplify leadership and all that we work so hard to bring for you every single day, and we hear you, and we will continue to hear you and work with you as best as we can to bring you all back safely. I'm deeply grateful to serve on this board, and I am committed to continuing to participate in our community's collective effort as we move forward towards our common goal of methodically and intentionally bringing everyone back when it's safe. Be well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Barry. And again, congratulations to all of our students. I know I had mentioned them earlier today. Really would like to say again, thank you to all the work of all of our committees. We are all working on many of them, sitting up at the table. Many of our PTA, our teachers, our administrators are participating. So just specifically tonight, I'd like to again thank the district-wide school safety team and also the Athletics Advisory Committee for all the work that they're doing to put very important things into place. Since you're here at the high school, on your way out, maybe you want to check out our new lettering on the William H. Johnson Administration Building. It's actually up. If you're driving on the way out, you could look at that. We will be having a ribbon-cutting ceremony to celebrate Dr. Johnson's naming of the building. I proudly serve as a liaison with Dr. Zampino to the Rockville Center Education Foundation, and they have set a tentative date for their gala of April 24th. And we'll be honoring Dr. Johnson as well. They are considering other options in the event that an in-person reception cannot be held, so stay tuned. But I will say, regardless of how they host their gala this year, that I hope the community will find ways to support the Ed Foundation, because we really do thank them from the bottom of our hearts for the programs and services that they've afforded the children of the district through their generous grants. If you haven't seen the Herald in the last few days, they wrote a great article about our Southside Middle School students and the teachers and the work that they were doing to recognize heroes. Through parts of projects that they did through September 11th Remembrance. They donated supplies to homeless veterans through the Beacon House, wrote thank you cards to veterans, and participated in Tunnel to Towers Foundation. And I just thought it was a great example of putting life lessons into curriculum, and I commend Mrs. McGinn, the teachers, and the students who participated in those efforts. Halloween is coming up. It is one of our first holidays, putting ourselves out there. I wanted to point you to the Purple Pumpkin Project that they're putting an initiative out. It's supposed to be for COVID-safe trick-or-treating homes where they're abiding by COVID rules. So if you are thinking of hosting, being able to hand out candy this year, please follow those guidelines. And if we can try to keep some normalcy for the kids, it would be nice for people to participate in it. I know Halloween is a rite of passage for kids, especially in Rockville Center. It's a great way to have some sense of community normalcy. So if we could participate in that, that would be great. People say being on the school board is a thankless job, and after tonight, we could definitely argue that that is not true. We really appreciate all the gratitude given from PTA, from our beautiful chamber singers and Dr. Freiling, Dr. Zuar. But I would like to take a moment as president of the board to say thank you to my fellow board members for all of their work. They're always available, they're always working, always thinking, and I just really appreciate having a board of people to work with, like all four of them. I couldn't be luckier. So I would just like to say on behalf of the board and the administration, thank you to all four of you for everything that you've done and for all the support I feel towards everything we're doing together. You're great partners, and just love working with you guys, so thank you so much. Okay, we're going to turn it over to you now, our community members, our parents. You can join us up at the microphone right here at this podium. Again, please state your name, your address. You can mention a comment or ask a question. We are limiting it to 3 minutes, but we'd love to have you join us.
Hi, everybody. Is this on? I know I'm loud anyway. I'm Frank Van Sant, president of RVCTA. Live in Huntington, 76 Tanyard Lane. I have 2 points tonight. The first one has some history to it. 3 years ago, the RVCTA created a program of community and co-worker support in partnership with the businesses in town. What we knew was that there are over 1,000 employees in RVC schools and tons of small businesses. We looked to make a win-win match, creating discount deals to motivate RVC employees to stop here in Rockville Center to do their shopping before they headed home at night. Everyone, secretaries, aides, custodians, not just teachers. For lack of a fancier name, we called it RVCTA Buys RVC, and we had a very nice beginning success in connecting deal seekers with local businesses. We were growing the program and expanding gradually and naturally where we could. Then came the pandemic, and it's been a tough go getting back. Well, now we're back. So we need your help to spread the word. In your shopping travels, please alert your favorite local shop that we're back. We're eager to hear from them. We're ready to provide a discount offer in our newsletter to all school employees. They present their ID to the businesses. Everyone wins. We want to continue to be helpful. The small businesses in Rockville Center are important to us, and helping our workmates is important also. Our contact in the schools is Nick Marasco, and that's N Marasco at rvcschools.org. Let's give it a jump start. We're back. Thank you. The second thing I want to say is a little more involved. In Manhattan, right by Rockefeller Center, there's that great statue of Atlas holding up the world. You know it, you've seen it. I like to think of the Atlas with his 4 titanic limbs as Team RVC. Students, teachers, parents, administration, holding up our little world, all working together, creating from the summertime, in time and virtual space, this unprecedented wonder, what we're doing right now, this new system that we're holding aloft. Perfect? No, but it's working. To mix the image and the metaphor, Kitty Hawk wasn't perfect, but it was wonderful. Yes, in other words, too, challenging, more difficult than ever before, strange, anxiety-producing, frustrating. But I'm proceeding from the ideas of precious and optimism. And the optimism springs from our mutual connectedness to the students. Always, of course, the students are at the heart and core. Whether in person or in remote, we're all working to maintain and improve supportive and challenging educational experience. For our part, we teachers are lucky. We get to work in jobs that we love. It's not work when the work is a labor of love. We're grateful. We appreciate the leg up that we get from the parents. We appreciate the hard work and support of our administrators and board. It is amazing. We're closing in on finishing month number 2. We worked every single day from June 15 to September 1 together with all of you. And I was there. I still don't know how we did it and what we did. It's a blur.
Mr. Van Zandt, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I know we're going over time, so I just have to ask you to wrap up your thoughts and comments. I'm sorry.
Understood.
Thank you.
I will wrap it up by saying this. We're in this together. We need to watch as a community what we do in our after hours, the activities that we're involved in our after hours, so that we can remain safe. We're at a plateau right now. This is a very precious time. We need to make sure that when we return to school, it's done on a research basis and a safety first basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good evening. Shanaz Georgelis, 42 Seaman Avenue. I thank you all. I know this time here is very challenging. I'm just wondering, because sitting back there, I was listening to the students, the reason why we're all here, and I hear them crying out really loudly, silently. And I wonder what we can do to help them in terms of socialization and, very importantly, this age group that is awkward. They need their friends. Peer relationship is really important to them. And I know we have counselors. So I wonder if we've thought about having the counselor run workshops, little groups, and all the events that's happening in the community is great, but it seems like the student has to take the initiative. How about us taking the initiative and reaching out to the student, whereby the student doesn't have to contact the counselor, or the student doesn't have to call a number, but they are initiatives and workshops that's distributed email to the students so they can just sign up and have a counseling session, a group session, meet their friends, and have some type of dialogue. So when, the alphabetical order of the students, if they have a friend with the last name of Z, A never gets to see them. This way, it brings them together in a forum where you can address their mental health and allow them to have some type of interaction. I am really concerned about the mental health of our kids, really concerned about that. So I think that maybe we can look at different ways of having them be able to meet, greet, talk, and socialize with each other, so they don't go in an unsupervised outside and drink and do things and experiment in an unhealthy manner. The other thing, one more point, I am happy that we're having free meals, but we're new to the community, and the first time we got this schedule for my son coming to high school, he has no lunch period. So he goes from the morning until the evening. And the letter that I received from home, from the school, was that this is final. So I did not even approach the idea, not knowing exactly who to contact because we were new. So now he does not have an opportunity to eat. So if he's if he has to come to school, and if he wakes up a little bit late and he's running, he doesn't eat for the entire day. So I think, and according to my son, there are several students in that 9th grade that does not have a free period. And I just think that needs to be looked at for those students as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hackett, can I just say something? In the high school, they are running a program called Sources of Strength. To make it short, you can go online and look it up. And talks about and deals with some of the things you were talking about. So you can it's called Sources of Strength.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi. I'm Karen Parker, 37 Southard. I'm just here to talk about the possibility of the intramural program, or whatever we're calling it. June, I would have loved to have heard some more specifics tonight, but as you are contemplating what those specifics might be, I just wanted to give you some of our thoughts. We did have a well-attended Booster Club meeting, and all the parents there were really interested in a program of this sort. And I know we did have an athletic advisory committee meeting, and during that meeting, we were all really concerned about the inclusion aspect and making everyone feel welcome. But we were also very concerned with the effects of the isolation that the kids are feeling and their mental health. So with that, we came up with the idea of the program not being necessarily sports specific, but that was also one meeting. It was pretty quick, and I know I personally didn't have time to really mull over, all the aspects and all the scenarios, and now that I've had a little more time to ponder, I have a few more ideas. Because while we were all invested in the idea of the inclusivity, I really feel like it's important that this program is also compelling. We want every kid to want to be there and to participate. They don't really know the positive effects they're going to get from it, but we do. So we want to make sure that they all want to be there. And I don't think that they will be so compelled if it is totally non-sport specific. These kids have had so much taken away from them, and one of the things that a lot of them are missing is team sports. And it's not the competition, because clearly that's out the door these days. A team is more than just competing. So if we could get some sort of program going where the kids could feel that sense of being on a team and feel that camaraderie, I think that would be really important. We want this to happen because we really do feel like it's so important. So we want it to be set up so that it can be as successful and meaningful as possible. Other districts are doing it. They're doing it safely. And we know we can do it here too, and we think we can do it better. So if we want it to be about the kids, we really need to do it right. And for me, that means less camp atmosphere and more sports specific. The program can start slow, and it can build into more skills training as the time progresses and the regulations decrease. My co-Booster Club president, Mark Melkonian, he oversees this program in his district.
President Hackett, it's been 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, I'll wrap it up.
That's all right, thank you.
So I can have his 3 minutes.
We're combining.
But he did make up a mock schedule, and it included sport-specific sections, and it also included non-sport specific, more strength and conditioning type things. So we can incorporate it all into the same program. And I also was listening to those students, and they said they were missing student-teacher relationships. They were missing their friends. They were feeling isolated. They want to get back to normal, and this could be a huge first step in getting them back to normal. So we implore you just to be thoughtful, and we'll have another athletic advisory committee meeting. We'll have Booster Club input, whatever you guys need from us to help you make it the best it can be.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Susan Bella from 139 Voorhees Avenue. So I'm here this evening for basically like many other parents for the same reasons. And the two things that I'm really concerned about is the education that our children are receiving right now and their mental health. So with thinking about hybrid and remote learning, even when they're in school, It's not the same. It's not the same level of education. And I know you all know that, and I know we're in difficult times right now. But I think it's important, and I know you're saying that, and I do appreciate that you want the children to come back to school. But right now, there aren't any cases. So right now is a good time. And I know it takes a lot of planning to get that going, but come Thanksgiving, come the holidays in December, most likely there's going to be cases. I hope not, but people get together over Thanksgiving. People get together over the December through New Year's break. Then there's the February break. So I would think that that's a time that we are going to have more cases. So if we can get the children back sooner than later, I think that makes more sense. And it seems to me that you already have a very good plan in place for hybrid. I shouldn't say very, I mean, it is the best that you can have for now. And the other thing that really concerns me, and it's the biggest part that concerns me, and I hear it from all the other parents, is really these students, their mental health. Middle school, high school students, I hear what you're all saying, and I know some of you have children at home, but being a teenager is a very vulnerable age. There are so many things that can happen. And I feel as though the school district has a responsibility for the well-being of its students. They're isolated. They're in their homes mostly 3 times a week looking at a computer for about 6.5 hours. And as educators, and I'm an educator, we preach to students, going on a computer is really not the best thing. Having your phone all the time is not the best thing. And yet they're doing that. They're doing that every single day. And I just think that's a very sad reality. And I think because the cases are low, we are in a position to make some really good decisions for them. So, and I just have a question. What exactly is stopping us from moving forward?
I'm just reminding you that we just hit your 3-minute mark, so we're going to wrap up your question. We'll answer your question. Can you just repeat it, please?
So I know, I'm sure there's a lengthy answer to this, but with considering Rockville Center in its own unique way, and I heard you mentioning the spacing of the district, is that the major obstacle, the biggest obstacle that you have right now with having students come back to school with the 6 feet distance?
It happens to be one of the bigger concerns, especially within a high school and middle school setting. You have a lot of kids that are moving around from one class to the next, typically anywhere from 9 to 8 times a day. And the advisement that we've been given is the 6 feet is a major challenge for us. We're a bigger school in terms of number, but in terms of the actual space itself, per student being within the classroom becomes a major challenge for us, along with other things that we would have to consider that I know that Mr. Murphy has also in conversation. Many of the social and emotional needs of what that may look like when kids come back are things that we are also considering. But we're in conversation all the time on what the current situation is and where we could possibly be going. So.
And I just want to point this out because no one has said this yet. But the days are getting shorter, so our children are waking up when it's dark. They're finishing their classes, and maybe about an hour, hour and a half later, it's dark again. The days are getting colder, so they don't have opportunities to go outside, or they will not have opportunities to go outside and socialize with their friends. And it's not good. They're in the house. So I really think that you all need to consider that with everything I know you have going on. I think that is really, really important, and I do have to stress that I feel as though the district has a responsibility to the students with respect to their mental health.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Debbie Cuevas for Rutland Avenue.
And I'm Karen Burgee, 15 Hendrickson Avenue.
We just wanted to start the conversation. Obviously, it's important to bring back all of our students, but we're here to represent our most vulnerable learners in the SEP population. And, obviously, Karen and I would, if you are going to have a, re-entry committee, we would definitely like to be involved in that. And basically our special ed students who are not in school every day are struggling. We see that from the families we talk to at our parent-to-parent meetings. And, we want to represent them and their interests and see how we could safely get them back into school 5 days a week.
Currently, most of our special education students are being given the fullest of what we can do right now, except for our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. Not sure, other than space restraints, why we're picking a certain grade level and saying it's okay to skip out on just these children. We gave it time coming in. We wanted to see how it would work space-wise and with the restrictions, how we can handle it, but it's been 2 months now, and these kids are still at home, and they're struggling. I've had conversations with many people in administration, and it's just not an easy situation to get the accommodations to the kids virtually. They're getting services, and that's fantastic. I can't tell you how happy we are with so much that is going on, but this small population, and I'm not sure exactly how many kids it is, but it can't be that many kids that we can't get them back into this large building. So if you can please look into this in any way, look at every corner of the building and look at every space, possibly, like the elementary schools have the partitions, if we can do that for a few classrooms just to get those few more kids in, it's really affecting a handful of kids tremendously. So it's just a baby step we're asking for, just a tweak in our plan to maybe get those kids back in. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Arnott, 120 Berkshire Road. So we had a conversation, Mr. Chang, regarding the intramural program with you. Specifically, now that you've mentioned the exercise that you're going to plan, I have a feeling that's, briefly from comments from people watching, it's set up to fail. None of the, we don't think many of the kids will go. It's not sports specific enough. It's just too little, too late. Like the fact that other schools have been doing intramurals. Why can't we? I forget your response. I believe to me, was that you didn't have the personnel to do it, and that the custodians had to do extra cleaning earlier and had to get home to their families.
Just a correction in terms of that conversation. You confounded two conversations that we had. And I do remember because we spent about 40 minutes on the phone talking about this. One was about the clubs and the cleaning and why we couldn't have that in person. That was my response to that. The second response was not that I said we may have trouble finding people that may be willing to take on intramural, because at that point, one, we didn't know where the funding would come from, and two, is to have an understanding of who would be interested in overseeing that. If we don't have the oversight, and we don't have people that are willing to take that on, was my answer to your
Would
question.
it not be the coaches that used to coach?
No, and again, what I said right after that was, I told you that we're working on a possibility of bringing kids in to do some form of after-school activity with physical activity that happens, and that we're continuing to work on that. At which point you said to me, when was that going to happen? And I said, you're going to have to kind of let us go through the planning. And that's how I ended that conversation with you.
So most schools have done it 3 or 4 weeks ago. Or 8 school districts in this area. I gave you that list, and I sent you the pictures of them.
Sure.
And they've made it work. Why can't we?
Well, we're currently vetting those ideas, and John and I are both on the Athletics Advisory Committee. We have coaches on there.
I'm sad to say that nobody's gonna show up for your proposal for next week. It's just not gonna work.
Thank you for letting me finish my thought. I was going to answer one of your questions about the coaches, because we have coaches on the committee. And the coaches themselves agreed that they didn't want this to become an extension of any particular sports season, but we wanted to make it, as Karen Parker mentioned, more open to all students who might be interested in sports. So one of the concerns was if we made it sports specific and run by our district coaches, that would give the impression that it was actually an extension of a season. So this was the conversation that had happened in committee, which is why we started talking about what were the benefits of this type of program. It was to get them outside, socializing, back together on the field, doing something that was healthy for them physically, mentally. So this is where we started building off of the idea of getting them outside, doing fitness, training, camp-style sessions, and it was being built from there. So I just want to answer your question about why and what the conversation looked like from the coach's perspective about sports seasons and being too specific. That was really where we had come to. So I just wanted to answer your question about that.
So I think there could be a middle ground. I think you could do half and half, because I think certain kids need that sports specific. I think it's not, if it's just a free-for-all and anyone can join, that's my own opinion. The other thing is, regarding clubs, we went from like 28 clubs in the middle school last year to 7 or 8 this year. I tried to find it on the website while I was sitting here, but I couldn't. If they're all done virtual, why aren't we keeping up with even the clubs that went on? Like, why is things so drastically changing?
We're going to have to answer your question and then wrap it up because of the time limit. But
Well, then I'd rather go to the progress reports. So,
as a point of order, though, I'll answer one of your questions, but it's got to be, because we are at the 3-minute mark, correct?
I'm sorry?
We're at the 3-minute mark, so.
There were other people up here longer, but okay.
No, that's what I'm saying.
We've been reminding everybody
finish
as they're going.
whichever question, and we'll certainly answer it. But just go.
So I'm in the district 20 years, and I recently wrote one of your administrators regarding progress reports and why they were no longer.
We're not going to be mentioning any particular administrator, correct?
Nope. But he did write.
We're getting in a territory I'm not comfortable with. If it's a personal conversation you have with an administrator, it does not belong at the podium. I'm sorry. If you can speak to Mr. Chang separately about that later.
Well, we
during the meeting.
did. We spoke about how there wasn't meaningful
We'll keep
feedback.
that as a private conversation then, because I think we're getting into a territory that I don't think any of us are comfortable with.
Then a general statement. Progress reports were good for 20 years, supposedly. And now, all of a sudden, they're like a useless tool that they were just canceled.
Okay.
Accordingly. No? I mean, why were they canceled?
Is your question?
Yes, why was it canceled? Why no more progress reports?
Dr. Sempe, I believe the discussion was that because we were in the pandemic and people could access with Power School with the comments and notes that would be going into the students. Well, I believe I'm correct in that logic.
Yes. Hello? Am I on? Yes. So what happened was...
I don't think we can hear you, Dr. Stampino, sorry.
It's on. So this year, it was a very unusual year, as you know. The progress reports were due, I think, at the 5th week of school, and at that point, there was not enough assessments to do a full-blown progress report. However, with power schools, that's why 20 years ago we didn't have power schools, parents could look at the quick lookup, which gives you up-to-date information that the teachers put in as grades. You could see the grades, you could see the attendance, and you could see everything up to date. So that is why we didn't do progress reports this year.
Thank you, I'm sorry, I think we're running over on that time. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, Mark Melkonian, 223 Brower Avenue. Just want to know if on a positive note. And just say that the sports preseason training program sort of came out of the idea of really concerned about the social emotional well-being of our young people. And it's really about giving our kids a chance to be outside under supervised physical activities. It's not about sports competition. It's not about keeping up with Garden City or any other town. It's about giving our kids the opportunity to increase their happiness by decreasing stress and anxiety and depression. And that's the hope. And that's the hope for this whole piece. And I can help out in any way. Thank you and have a good night. Thanks for your
Thank you. Thank you for your work. Any other comments from visitors? Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the October 8th, 2020 Public Works session?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Can I have a motion to accept items for action A through D?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Can I have a motion to retire to executive session to discuss a specific personnel matter?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. We're going to adjourn the meeting, and our next meeting is on November 5th. Thank you so much. Nice to see everybody.